Good morning, everyone. My name's Craig McQueen. I'm happy to welcome you to our second merger update. I'm especially pleased to welcome once again our field locations: Altoona, Mount Laurel, Albany, Indianapolis, Dearborn, and Pittsburgh. Once again, we'll handle questions from each location. We'll start in reverse order from what we did the last time because we came up a little short with Altoona. So this time we'll start with Altoona. What we'll have this morning is a brief update from Dave Levan, then we'll go to the questions from the SCT audience here in Philadelphia, and then the field. For the audience in Philadelphia, please wait for the microphone to come around to you before you ask the question. I have two people here who will be walking around with microphones. The reason for the meeting at this point in time is simply timely because we approach our December 23rd shareholder meeting, materials for which you've been receiving in the mail, and part of the purpose of this and my role is to help you clarify what you're receiving in the mail. This week you'll be seeing these posters both in Philadelphia and around the divisions. The poster simply explains what's going on with three different color proxy cards you'll be receiving: one white one, one green one, and one gold one from NS. The white card you should have received if you're a Conrail common stockholder. You'll receive the green card if you're an ESOP holder, and you'll receive the gold card from Norfolk Southern. The important thing to know about these colors is, and I'll repeat once again at the end of the session, the important thing to understand is that the white card, the last card that you vote, is the card that counts. The white card is the card you should vote, assuming you're for Conrail CSX. The green card is the ESOP card. You'll also vote for Conrail CSX on that card. Have that opportunity. The gold card is the card you'll receive from NS. The important thing to understand about the gold card is that if you vote that card, even if you believe you're voting against NS on that card, you negate what you do on the white card. The best thing to do with the gold card, assuming that you're for Conrail CSX, is to do nothing with it, or as the poster illustrates, toss it in the basket. So again, I'll repeat that at the end of the show once again, but the important thing to know is that for Conrail CSX, the best place to vote that is the white card and the green card. Now I'd like to ask Dave Levan to come down for a brief update on the merger, and then, as I said, we'll go to questions and answers. Thanks.
I'm going to use the podium this morning because I've got some notes, but then when it comes time for Q&A, I'll come out here where I can be a little bit more available in the front of you. And if you don't understand all that about the gold card, my son heard December 23rd and he heard gold card and he thought he was getting an unlimited use of a MasterCard for Christmas. That's not what we mean by the gold card. Thought what I would do this morning before we do turn it over to Q&A is just talk a little bit about the changes since the last meeting. Talk about, again, so that there really is no misunderstanding about the ultimate mission here in terms of achieving a friendly merger with the CSX. Talk about the number of fronts, kind of using battle terminology here because it does seem very similar to a war that we're involved in here. So I'll talk about the fronts that we're taking on in this process. Talk about our ally, CSX. Talk about other allies or potential opponents to where we want to end up in the ultimate mission, and then make some closing remarks about the role of the SCT in this whole process. It certainly seems like it's a lot longer than less than 2 months ago since I last came before this group to talk about the positive step that this company and the CSX have embarked on. A lot of things have happened. I'm sure you're well aware of all of them, and I apologize for taking some time here to just review through them, but it may help to do that. Obviously, last time we stood here, we were on a path to move forward proactively to achieve the best result for Conrail and all of its constituencies, and I think that's an important point, and I will talk a little bit more about why that's important in this whole process. Obviously, since that time, we've had an NS bid. We've had a restructuring of the cash portion of the CSX merger consideration, a subsequent increase in the NS bid to $110 all cash. We were sued by the NS and other shareholders. We've been to court. We've had a positive decision from the U.S. court in terms of the injunction that was requested to preclude the first of the CSX tender offers. Obviously, that was appealed, and quickly we were successful in upholding that decision under appeal. Since that time, on the litigation front, we last week jointly with the CSX filed a counterclaim against the NS, and I think all the information about that is available too. I see my lawyers out there. Maybe I'm not properly framing all the appropriate. Come close, he says. Obviously, since the last time I was here, we've had the first CSX tender offer that was successfully completed. We have now set the shareholders meeting for December the 23rd, and the second CSX tender offer has commenced, subject to obviously the vote of the Conrail shareholders in the meeting on the 23rd. One other thing that we talked briefly about in the last meeting was the importance that the new company have a new name that really represents what it is, that the vision that we have for this new enterprise, and I'm happy to say that we have started the process. We have engaged a firm to help us with that, to start the process of developing the new name for this enterprise, and I think hopefully, Arnie, we're on a plan to finish that sometime early in next year. The punchline, I guess, if you take all of that together from a communication standpoint during this intervening period since the last meeting, has unfortunately meant that we have been in a position of communicating from a defensive position rather than from an offensive position. I know that has been frustrating to me. It's been frustrating to many of you, and there are reasons for that. In light of the NS's original offer and their increased offer, there were certain periods in there where by law we were precluded from going out and really talking proactively about the benefits of the Conrail-CSX merger. And as a result, as I said, we found ourselves in this period all too often from a communication standpoint being on defense or being reactive rather than being out there and being proactive. And I think we're at a point now where we have the opportunity to reverse that and get out and really take control of the communication and sell the benefits of the merger that we have embarked on. Talk about the ultimate mission just a little bit. Certainly when you get into that question, the first question that we talked about before is why the decision to merge in the first place? And I think obviously to be, again, redundant and reinforcing the direction that the rail industry, through consolidation, was taking, as well as, and more importantly, the demands of our customers and the demands of the marketplace, really left us in a position to be able to achieve our long-term visions for growth. Really was what the primary driving factor of the decision to merge. Let me just put a little bit of that in perspective in terms of the growth challenge that we have faced here at Conrail. And I don't mean to pick on the core service group, but core service group in terms of revenue represents about 45% of the company's revenue. In the last 4 years, in round numbers, 93 to 94, the core revenue grew by about $60 million year over year. 95 over 94 was down some $30 million. We expect 95 to 96 core revenue to be down something approximately in the $10 million range. And as we look at the plan preliminarily for 1997, we really don't see a scenario for the core part of our business significantly different than what we have seen in 1996. and you can talk about excuses for that in terms of weather and service, but I think we would all acknowledge that to support our long-term viability for this company and for all of its constituencies, the significant role that growth plays in that prospect. And growth is not just going to come from improved service, although that's clearly a part of it. It's going to come from an increased product, which brings in all the other components of what we deliver of value to our customers. And of course, the other piece of that is the bigger network, and that's clearly what the CSX Conrail merger provides first and foremost to us, is the opportunity to go more places, to have access to more customers, to go better places, a better mix between where our network goes and where their network goes, a better positioning of ourselves for the future of the industry, as well as what it means in terms of being able to provide to our customers in the marketplace a much broader product other than just rail transportation in terms of logistics and exposure to the other modes of transportation that are currently in the CSX portfolio. I want to talk also about this concept or issue about what is right for the company and the concept that is embodied in Pennsylvania law, which allows the company and its board and its management to consider the company's interests, both from a time perspective in terms of what's in its best interest for the short term, but also what's in the best interest in the long term. So there's certainly a timing factor that is embodied in Pennsylvania law. And embodied in Pennsylvania law is also the concept that a company has value and is important to other than just its shareholders. And that's not to say our shareholders are not important. They're critically important, and we acknowledge their importance. But it also allows us to take a look at our customers, our markets, our employees, communities, in deciding what the right thing is for the company. And I think it should be very clear that when we decided to merge, number one, and number two, when we decided that CSX was the right merger partner, that it was never our intent to auction the company. And in fact, there's no obligation for us to have auctioned the company, and so we want to be very clear that it was never our intent to auction the company, and certainly that's not, and still not our intent. From the standpoint of our ally, the CSX, I think we have to understand that there's a lot going on here from a tactical standpoint. I would say that we have organized ourselves in a way that separates those folks who are working the various requirements of this merger process and aligning our folks up with their counterparts on the CSX from a tactical standpoint. I think for the most part the relationships are working very well, and I think for the most part we are sharing a common view of the tactics that we are embarked on to make certain that we are moving forward in the way that we want to move forward. I think it's also clear, though, that we must understand that in spite of the fact that we are working on this part of our business together, we are still competitors, and we need to continue to be competitors in those markets, and I think we must keep very clear in front of us that while we're very much on the same page as it relates to this merger transaction, our interests are not aligned as it relates to the marketplace at the moment, because we are competitors and we need to continue to be aggressive competitors. And the other place where our interests are not necessarily perfectly aligned as it relates to shareholders, and clearly our job is to make certain that Conrail shareholders' interests are protected, and the CSX's role is to make certain that their shareholders are clearly considered and protected in this, and those two things are not necessarily and not always in perfect alignment, and that's one other area where we continue to make sure that we keep ourselves diligent in making sure that we're both doing right by our various constituencies. In terms of other allies or other potential opponents out there, obviously we've got customers have a lot of interest in this merger. We've got state and local governments, particularly the states of New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Ohio. We've got short lines, ports, employees, and labor, and I separate employees separately from labor because I think there are certain places where our employees' interests are in alignment with those who represent certain of our employees, but I think we clearly need to make sure that we understand the need to communicate with all of them in terms of what the value of this transaction is. Finally, before I open up to Q&A, let me talk then just a little bit about your role. But before I do that, let me say very clearly and very straight, I'm every bit as committed to this transaction as I stand here today than I was when I stood before you on October the 17th or 18th, whenever it was. I may have some battle scars. I may, from time to time, as you see me in the hallways, look a little battle weary. And that's probably because from time to time during this period of time, I have had some battle scars and I have had battle weariness. But I wake up each morning with a renewed energy and a renewed enthusiasm to see this transaction through to its conclusion. Which really brings me to your role. You are the strategy communication team. This is one vehicle to keep you informed. I am only one person, and there's lots of audiences that would like my time as the communicator to what the implications of this transaction are. I can't do it all by myself, and that's really the role that you must play to get out and be proactive in your communication about the importance of this transaction and to listen to those various constituencies as to what their concerns are, because clearly this communication is a two-way street. We need to be able to explain why we think this is the best transaction for this company. At the same time, we need to be receptive and responsive to their concerns. So what's really up to you is you have to understand where we are, and to the extent that you don't fully understand, that's why we have forums such as this. That's why we have a hotline to allow people to call in, to keep the flow of information. So first of all, you need to understand. You need to then communicate. You need to go out and seek support from those other potential allies and do what we need to do to make certain that we give every opportunity to have them be allies as opposed to opponents. And finally, of course, in light of the vote that is going to be taking place, as Craig talked about, clearly the one group that we need their support most immediately in is support from the ESOP participants in terms of taking this next step to get approval to move this forward. The one last thing I would say that I need from all of you and the company needs from all of you is, as I said in the last session, deliver the best possible results we can deliver for 1996. And when I say deliver the best possible results, that's not just financial results. That's deliver the best possible results to our customers and to all of our constituencies for 96, but also obviously as we go into 1997. We can't lose sight of the fact that this transaction at the end of the day is only as good as we make it during this intervening period. So we must all work hard every day to continue to keep positive results in this intervening period. With that, I will step out here and open it up for Q&A. Where's the first question coming from? Altoona.
Hey, Chuck Menovich here.
Yeah, Chuck.
I guess everybody's concerned about what do you think the odds are of this merger actually happening and some kind of time frame?
Well, this from a standpoint of odds of it happening. I think the odds of it happening are very, very good as long as we continue to do all the things we need to do in terms of making sure that everybody understands the value of putting these two companies together. And that certainly the first group that needs to most be convinced of that is the shareholders, because they're going to have the first opportunity to have a say of whether this second tender offer moves forward or not. And so certainly in terms of the importance of the shareholder over the next several weeks as we move into that, I would say that if we get beyond this shareholders meeting with a positive vote, which would allow the CSX tender offer to move forward, on the basis of that being concluded, then I would tell you my odds of seeing this merger completed would increase pretty significantly. So we're in a period of time here where the odds are going to be subject to our success in convincing the shareholders that this is the right combination. As to timing, Again, I think that's to some extent dependent upon the shareholders meeting. It's scheduled for the 23rd. I think we are certainly intent on working hard to achieve a positive vote. It should have been clear in all the materials that if we get a sense that that will not have a positive outcome, we certainly have the alternative to continue to delay that meeting. But the push right now has got to be to see our way through to a positive result on the 23rd of December, and with a positive result on the 23rd of December, then I'd say we are very well on our way to seeing this merger to completion from the financial perspective. But then we've got a regulatory process to go through, and there the importance of the customers, the ports, the state and local governments, and all the other constituencies out there, which I'm encouraging all of you to understand the role that you play and where you go to do that. Clearly, to see a successful completion from a regulatory standpoint is going to require a lot more work. So, I mean, we knew when we got into this was going to be a long process with a lot of steps. We knew that we needed to get through it financially. We maybe didn't anticipate we were going to have a litigation step to go through, but clearly that step is being dealt with. But I think from a timing standpoint, we've got to get focused on this 23rd meeting, do everything we can to convince our shareholders that this is in their best interest, get them to deliver a positive vote, and then move forward with the second tender offer, and then go into the regulatory process. Because from there, I think we've got a very good story to tell. Next question's coming from Philadelphia Division. Mount Laurel, I'm sorry.
Did you hear me, Mr. Levan?
No, I can't hear you.
Okay. It's been rumored that the CSX pension fund is presently underfunded. Given ours is presently overfunded, how will the merger affect the pension fund for both companies' employees in the future?
It is not a rumor that the CSX pension fund is underfunded. It is a fact that the present value of all their future benefits exceeds their assets. Somebody give me the number. Bruce, do you know the number, or Tim O'Toole? About $300 million. And the Conrail, on the same equivalent apples-to-apples basis, our pension fund is overfunded by 4. So if you purely just merge those two together and assume the liabilities and the assets, the combined pension fund would still be overfunded by some $100 million. Was there another part to that question, or no?
No, the second part to the question was, how will the merger affect the pension fund for both companies' employees in the future? And I believe you answered that at the end.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay, Albany Division?
Yes. Do you expect the Surface Transportation Board to handle the merger consistently with the way they handled the UP Santa Fe merger?
I might have to get my lawyers down here to answer this question. Everybody heard the question. I assume everybody hears these questions full range. Do we expect the Surface Transportation Board to handle it in the same way? I think for the most part they're going to be guided by the same principles. And what previous mergers have done is to provide some clarification of what those principles are. And I think with the clarification of those principles, particularly what we saw coming out of the Union Pacific, Southern Pacific has given us the guidance of how we're going to work through that regulatory process. But I think you'd have to understand it's not a menu of black or white. It's going to be a bit of an iterative process that we're going to have to work and make certain that all the constituencies' competitive concerns are dealt with. And that includes the short lines and, of course, the customers and others who will have a say in that process. And that's why this communication is so critically important now.